All right, awesome. So, thank you everybody for joining us today, and we are excited. We have Tony Sandoval here with us from Tumbleweed here in Billings to share everything about Tumbleweed and how to support youth who are transitioning out of foster care. So, thank you, Tony. Very
You're
much appreciate
welcome.
it. Yeah,
So,
so yeah, go ahead.
sorry. So I'll start with tumbleweed first, and then jump
Perfect.
into Chafee.
Yeah.
What tumbleweed does is it is a drop-in center. Excuse me, for youth who are either homeless or are at risk of being homeless. So what that means is people who are either couch surfing or people who might be in an apartment and they know they're going to be evicted within a certain amount of days. Um, Tumble, what Tumbleweed does is it serves those youth. So Tumbleweed has hot breakfast, hot lunch, washers and dryers. We have computers where youth can do some apartment hunting or do some job hunting. We have a clothing garage. We have what we call a hygiene wall. So it's a lot of full bottles of shampoo, conditioner, body wash. We have deodorant. Um, that is what the drop-in does. So our drop-in is open from Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then on Fridays from 9 a.m. to 1. You can come in at any time. They just go to the back. If they've never been there before, they just would indicate to the person who's letting them in, I'm new to Tumbleweed. We do an intake, and then we will help out as best we can. Oh, and we also have a food pantry. So youth are able to get 20 items of food from the pantry every single week. So we also our pantry is great because when you're homeless, you may not know where your next meal is going to come from, and it's nice to be able to have that. So Chafee is located in the Tumbleweed building. What Chafee does is we work with youth who are in the foster care system starting at 14 up to the age of 21. So if they age out of foster care, we can still assist them up to the age of 21 because once they age out, obviously they don't have all of the supports that come with foster care. Um, what Chafee is in a nutshell is we are supportive services. So for instance, say I'm working with a 16-year-old who's going to senior. They're at a group home and they want to join the swim team, and there's a $25 registration fee. As long as they're engaging with my program, then we can help pay that fee. Say they needed swim trunks or a swimsuit, anything like that, we can help with that as well. Chafee can also assist with bus passes. We can help with phones and paying for the phone minutes. There really is not a whole lot of things that Chafee cannot help with because there is so much that we can help with. Um, we unfortunately cannot pay for things in full. So, for instance, when we have youth who are wanting to do driver's ed, we can pay for it's, I believe, almost $400 now. We can't pay that $400, but what we can do is we can pay up to like 125 bucks. So it's not the full thing, but it's at least something. And then hopefully CPS might be able to step in and pay for the rest. Um, So what ages qualify for Chafee? So again, it's 14 to 21. What disqualifies a youth from Chafee services is if they have received adoption, guardianship, kinship care before the age of 16, that would make them ineligible. If they are, say, 16 and they're if they're 16 and the case gets closed, then that makes them ineligible for Chafee services. But really, we will do whatever we can to help out. A lot of times we will have 18-year-olds who are coming from either out of town or from a different state, as long as we can get confirmation that that they were in foster care, then we can get them into our services. Um, let's see. And if you're okay with it, Carrie, I'm just going to kind of go down the list that you gave me. Okay. So some of the biggest challenges facing youth in foster care as they get older, so 4 and 5 are kind of the same. The biggest uncertainty, the biggest challenges youth face once they're starting to age out of foster care is housing. Um, we have youth who are in group homes, who are in higher level of care. And once they start getting to, 17, getting close to 18, CPS starts having those conversations about where are you going to be. And it can be incredibly nerve-wracking because maybe these youth don't want to go to school. Maybe they're in Utah and you, they don't really know what is next for them. So housing is a big fear. It's a big challenge that they face. So, and I'm sure Carrie can attest to this, once they start getting closer to 18, there's a lot more meetings about where are you going to be? What is the plan? How can we help you achieve that? So what Chafee can help with is once they turn 18, there is what is called the FYI voucher. That voucher is designed to make housing cheaper for youth who have been in foster care. The great thing about that voucher is, as I mentioned before, say they are disqualified from Chafee services before the age of 16. In order to use that voucher, you only need to be in foster care for 1 day. So even if they're in it for 1 day, they get that voucher, which is designed to help make rent cheaper. Um, they need to provide us paperwork. We work with the youth in order to make sure that we have all of that paperwork together before we submit it to the housing authority. That way, there's no holdup on our end. And then once the voucher is issued, then they start looking for housing, um, closer to whatever it is they're looking for. One of the things that also comes up is, and it's a great program, is Dawson College has what is called Dawson's Promise, where youth who are in foster care can get free education. And then what happens is they are then able to live in the dorms as well. So that's also great for them in terms of maybe allaying a little bit of that fear as to where they're going to be. Um, Let's see. So, what do I wish more adults understood about being an older youth in foster care? That even though it might not be verbalized, you start seeing it at 17. At least I start seeing it, is there is that fear turning 18. What am I going to do? Because if they've been in the foster care system for a while, they are used to having a lot of supports. They're used to having a lot of people trying to help them figure out school, almost everything and anything. And once they get closer to 18, the realization starts to hit that they're not going to have those supports anymore. So I've had it happen a couple times where youth that I've working with, they were great, 16 to 17, and then 17, it's like a switch flips and they start becoming a little bit more angry, a little bit more easily upset. And I always try to take a step back and realize, oh, they're going to turn 18 soon. And, they were not in a good home situation. They're in a town where they didn't want to be in. All of their people are in another town, and that's the only option to go back to in order to have housing. And that might not be a great option for them, but that might be the only option. So those feelings start to come up. So, um, I always try to understand it from their point of view. Like it's this fear of going back to what they were taken out of. And I learned not to take their anger personally when they are maybe getting a little loud, when they are getting a little fearful of what's going to happen. Strengths that I often see in youth is their resiliency, their abilities to really roll with the punches because they unfortunately have been in a situation where it's constantly changing, where they might not know where they're going to be in 6 months. Um, I've been really fortunate to run into a lot of youth who are just kind of like, well, hey, this is where I am. How can I make the best of it? And then that's where we step in at Chafee and trying to help them make the best of it, trying to help them understand that at the very least, they aren't alone. What does effective advocacy for older youth look like? For older youth, I would say what I have seen be the most effective is just being genuine. And this kind of goes into maybe question number 9 as well. How can a CASA advocate build trust? I think we all know that teenagers, I mean, they can sniff out a phony real quick. So being genuine, being honest with them really does go a long way, even if being honest is telling a youth like, hey, you keep up with these behaviors, you might have to go out of state to someplace that's more rigid. Um, it always, after the fact, from what I've noticed, is appreciated. And it might not be appreciated in the moment, but from what I've seen afterward, it very much is having somebody who will be honest with them. Um, let's see, what are some ways advocates can help you feel heard and involved? I like to say just put it all on the table. Tell them these are what the things that are being worked on. More often than not, they know what's being worked on. Hopefully their CPS workers are honest about, reunification or anything like that. Um, and letting you tell you what they want, whether it's going back to a situation that they were removed from, whether it's not going back into that situation they were removed from. Um, Asking them what they want goes a long way to help, and advocating for that goes a long way to make them feel heard. It goes a long way to make them feel like they have some kind of control in this situation where 99% of the times they don't have any control. Um, how can advocates support youth in developing independence? Really, for me, what I've seen is I like to say for Chafee, youth drive the bus. I am just here to navigate, help them get to wherever it is they want. Um, so letting them decide where they want to go, how they want to get there. I am happy to give them as many options as possible, um, and then let them choose. Sometimes they might come up with an option on their own that maybe I didn't think of that is a better option, and that's great. Sometimes they might have an idea of their own that maybe doesn't work out in the long run, but in the end, they were given that choice to try something and see if it worked, which is, again, another thing that goes a long way to building trust. Um, So housing, again, that FYI voucher, um, just, when you hear that youth who are turning 18, that voucher can be used in Billings, Missoula, and Butte right now. Their housing authority, HUD, they're working to try to get that into other cities in Montana, but right now it's just those three. That voucher I've seen it work for youth who don't have jobs where their rent is literally $50 a month. I had a youth who had 2 jobs. She was graduating from high school. She wasn't really interested in college. We did the voucher, and it was only going to save her $50. So yeah, it can be really great, and can kind of be one of those situations where like it's like, well, why did I bother doing all this if it's only going to save me $50? But again, from my point of view, letting them know that up front has been great and letting them choose because sometimes they might be working 2 jobs and they say, you know what, 2 jobs, I can probably get another roommate and make ends meet somehow. So again, giving them those options, letting them lead, and then just trying to be there to help follow up. What support is available for youth who want to attend college, trade schools, or job training? So there is a program in Montana for Montana foster youth called Reach Higher. If you've been in foster care, you are basically guaranteed to get the Reach Higher scholarship. That is $5,000 a month. And what happens is Reach Higher will disseminate it to the school. So it's $2,500 one semester, $2,500 the next semester. Really, I believe as long as they can maintain at least a C average, then they are pretty much guaranteed to get those funds. They just have to submit transcripts, I think, at the end of every semester. Um, and I'm sure you guys know there is the Bush Scholarship through CASA. Um, so again, that's another $5,000. So really, if a youth can take advantage of at least two of those scholarships, there's 10 grand right there that they don't have to pay, which can be really great. Another great thing about the Reach Higher scholarship is that it doesn't have to be a university. Um, I had a client who wanted to go to dog grooming school, and Reach Higher paid for it. As long as it is an accredited, I guess, learning program or something like that, then Reach Higher will pay for it, which is fantastic because maybe some kids don't want to go to college, but they want to go to cosmetology school.
Yeah.
So that's really great. As far as trade schools or job training opportunity programs, um, there was an apprenticeship program through the state. I had reached out to try to get some more information. I'm just waiting to hear back. But the gist of that program sounds like as long as maybe a Chafee youth or youth that you guys know of can get associated with this program, this apprenticeship program can pay for work clothes. It can pay for any tests that they need to take, any workbooks. Some of them, depending on how good the scholarship is for whatever it is they're wanting to do, might be able to pay for things like transportation. It's just a matter of what the youth wants to do and that scholarship.
Mhm.
Um,
Tony, can I ask a quick question going back
yeah,
to that?
absolutely.
Can you talk about the SILS program just a little
Yeah,
bit? That gets tossed around a lot
of
at
course.
my friends and stuff. Yeah.
Sure. So SILS is the Supervised Independent Living Program. So SILS. It is kind of an oxymoron because it's supervised plus independent. And what that program tries to do is youth who we feel would thrive having their own apartment would get their own apartment. Um, they would get a stipend of $125 a week, which is $500 a month. They're required to do what we call productive hours. So 30 a week. That can be school, work, or volunteering. It can be one of those things, or it can be a combination of those things. Um, it can be no, it is a lot involved because youth are required to meet with me once a week. They are required to be doing their productive hours, which means if they're doing school, then I have to work with the attendance counselor to make sure that they are attending school. If they're going to work, then I try to get a hold of a manager or something so I can verify that they are going to work. Um, when they get an apartment, they are required to keep it neat, clean, and organized. They cannot have overnight guests. They cannot obviously be indulging in drugs, alcohol, firearms, sleepovers, anything like that. Um, we, when we start looking at a youth for the SILS program, I will tell them right off the bat, I will be in your business. If you thought coming out of a group home was going to give you more flexibility, it will not. Um, I tell them this because I don't want them to be surprised because when we do the paperwork, I tell them I will be going through your drawers. I will be going through your cabinets. I will be looking under your bed and I will be looking under your pillows. Um, the reality of it is because we are not a group home, because we are not higher level of care, we are asking youth to be on their honor and not do these things. So we, as Chafee, have to be diligent to make sure that they're not doing these things. Because it is not uncommon to see youth who go into the SILS program go a little sideways within that first month. And to be honest, it is very expected. They're coming out of a group home where they were monitored 24/7. They're coming out of higher level of care where they had to ask to go to the bathroom, and all of a sudden they're in an apartment of their own. They can come and go as they please. And yeah, sometimes it does go a little sideways. But we remind them, like, when you come into this program, you cannot fail. And it's scary because, and I say that because we don't know where CPS is going to place this youth if they lose their apartment. If they're coming out of a group home and say they don't follow the rules and they have to leave, the only option might be an out-of-state higher level of care where, again, they have to ask to go to the bathroom. They are told when they will go to sleep. They are told when they will have lunch and dinner and all that stuff. So sills can be really, really great in helping youth gain that independence and learn what it's like to be on their own. And sometimes it can be a really big challenge because, again, we're asking youth who have had these experiences to suddenly be on their own and do well. So yeah, that can be a challenge, but it's something that we work with CPS, we work with CASA, we try to have the whole team give their input as to whether or not a youth would actually thrive in that apartment. SILS is for youth between the ages of 16 and 18. So if we have a youth who is in the SILS program up to the age of 18, then what happens is they no longer get the stipend after their 18th birthday. They are expected to pay rent on that apartment the next month. So if a youth turns 18 on the 15th will be the last day that they get the check, and then they're expected to pay rent on the first. So again, we work with the youth to make sure that they are not only keeping their apartment neat, clean, and organized, but they are budgeting as well. I like to tell youth when they come into the program that I'm going to give you this money. You are free to spend it how you want. But if you come to me in 2 weeks and say, I don't have toilet paper, I don't have food, then we need to have a conversation about budgeting your money better because come 18, where are you going to go if you can't afford your rent?
I have a
Um,
couple questions.
yeah,
Um, so first, what percentage of youth that start the sales program make it through and make it work?
it's hard to say because recently, um, we had youth who it was too much for. So we did have to ask for youth at a time, at all at once, pretty much, to have be placed somewhere else because it was a big responsibility. And it wasn't something that they were prepared for. Percentage wise, I don't know the percentage just because everybody's different. So success for one youth, I mean, and I'll be honest, like I had a youth who was struggling and said, you know what, this is too much for me. I really need to be back in a group home. I consider that a big success for this youth to step up and say, I can't have my own apartment. This is too much. I need something that is a little more structured. Um, so yeah, percentage wise, it's hard to say.
All right. So fostering accountability and independence within the confines of the sales program. You said, we need to have a talk. Is there anything more that you do to foster accountability and independence with all of this?
So again, our apartment checks, they meet with us once a month. Um, I'm sorry, not once a month. They meet with us once a week. We are either doing meetings here at our offices or we're doing meetings at their apartments. We do a lot of youth-centered meetings every 6 weeks. We are asking CPS to also do apartment checks and to have their meetings as well, just to make sure that we are all seeing the same thing with the youth. So if they are not doing something, we all know, and we can all tell them, like, hey, you came into this program and you indicated that you would do X, Y, and Z. You're not doing X and Y. So we need to kind of right the ship and we need you to start doing these things because you signed a contract saying that you are willing to do these things. And again, a lot of times it is just rewriting that ship, trying to make sure that they are aware that this is something that they agreed to.
I keep having questions coming in the
No, you're
chat
good.
here. So how much is rent when they hit 18 years?
So every apartment is different. So just to give you a range, we have starting at $550 a month, going up to $775 a month. It really just depends on what apartment they're in. And again, 6 months before they turn 18, we start having these conversations with them when they're in the SILS program. Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? If you want to stay here in this apartment, that's absolutely okay. But this is the rent and these are the utilities that you have to pay.
Would they qualify for the um sorry, not FYI. What was it called? FYI?
The FYI, yeah. So
Yeah.
yes, they qualify for the FYI voucher, but they can't use it on the apartment they're in because
Oh,
Tumbleweed holds the lease for those apartments, and we try to cycle through to get youth into those apartments. So the youth who's turning 18, we try to get them in their own place. One, because they don't like having us up in their business. And two, just so we can get another youth in who would be ready for the same kind of opportunity.
makes sense.
Do you have builders working with them?
So what we do is every Wednesday, we do what are called life skills classes.
Okay.
When they're in an apartment, they are required to do these life skills classes. So say they come to us and they're going to get a job and all that, we will tell them, this is great, but you need to tell your supervisor either you have to be done with work by noon or you have to be off for Wednesdays because this is important to your housing. And to be honest, a lot of supervisors seem to really want to work with those youth to help them keep their housing.
Do you pay for Uber rides?
We do not.
Okay. And then how many per apartments are currently offered by the sales program in Billings?
So we currently have, I'll say 15 apartments. Of those 15 apartments, both the Chafee program and our housing coordinating program utilize both of us utilize those apartments. So when one apartment is empty, if nobody in Chafee has a sales client who's ready to go, then someone in housing could take that apartment for one of their clients.
Do you often have a long waiting list and a need for more?
It actually fluctuates. It Sometimes our waiting list has been maybe 4 people long, and sometimes it's been one person long, and we can get someone in right away. It just kind of depends.
I would
Okay.
also add that I know there's some youth that we tell that there's a waiting list because we want them to get a little bit older, and a little bit
Mhm.
more mature
Yep.
to that point. So I
Yep.
know we've done that too.
Right.
All right.
And a
So,
lot of times too, we do see a little bit more success with 17-year-olds.
Yeah.
So like Carrie said, we have a 16-year-old who might not be ready for it. Let's see some more stuff before we would even put you on the waiting list. So
Yeah.
okay. So how do you cover intimate relationships, codependency, trafficking, substance use, for preventative measures for skill building? So how do you cover those things, just setting up preventive measures and teaching them about them?
So we try to reach out to our community partners and bring people in who can actually talk with them about those things. One of the things we ask when they come into their own apartment is that they have a therapist ready to go, that they have some sort of support system already in place. So we might just be another support system that's being added on, but somebody that they feel that is trustworthy. So that could be a CASA worker, if they feel something comes up and they want to speak with someone.
Okay. On the apartments that you have in these apartment buildings, is it mixing teens and adults?
We, so right now we have 8 apartments in one place where we are trying to have that be more of our sales clients because they're all going to be the same age range, because they're all going to be in foster care. Um, we have seen it happen in the past, and it's really great to see where they start coming to life skills classes, they start recognizing each other, and then they start building a little bit of a community. So when somebody hears something scary at night, they could go next door and say, "Hey, did you hear that too?" We did have some of our sales clients for Valentine's Day. They all went to one girl's apartment and they made chocolate covered strawberries. And one of the girls made it was something with pasta. And I'll be honest, they all seemed to really like garlic because the minute I walked into that apartment, I was hit in the face with garlic. But I mean, it was half eaten, so that's great. So,
Cool. All right. I think I've got to the bottom of my
okay.
questions right now.
So just carrying on, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I think I'm under what are some mistakes well-meaning adults sometimes make when trying to support teens in care? I would say what I've seen is trying to force a super close relationship right off the bat. Um, it takes time, and it also takes time on Chafee's end too, to try to get a youth who doesn't know me to start seeing me as a support system, somebody they could trust. What I try to do is even if a youth isn't too interested in Chafee, I'll tell them part of what I can do is we can meet once a month at Starbucks and you can tell me how crappy your day is. Even just something like that, just trying to show that I'm willing to sit there and listen and buy them a coffee. Those kind of things can go a very long way.
I think you brought up a good point, Tony, that I want to make sure that people understand is that Chafee is voluntary.
Yep,
Uh, so yeah, so I think so CPS has to refer over at 14, but then it's completely voluntary up to the youth at that point if they want to engage.
correct. And
Correct.
one of the great things about that, Carrie, is so say I meet with a youth who's 14. And 14 is kind of hard because really they don't have a whole lot going on, just trying to make it through the day. They can say, no, I'm not interested right now. But say they get to 16 and they're like, hey, you know what? I remember that one guy who took me to Starbucks and was talking about this program. I think I kind of want to do it again. I'm happy to pick up where we left off and start on whatever it is they need.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. I have kind of a different question that's not on here. Can you talk a little bit about what it looks like? Because as you've mentioned a few times, that not all of our youth that are 14 and older are in the Yellowstone County area. They
Mhm.
get placed in other states, they get placed in other counties. Can you explain a little bit about what that looks like with the Chafee program and how that
Sure.
follows? They get referred over.
Yeah. So, say for instance, if you're working with a youth who is in Billings and then they go to Missoula, really, for everybody who's listening, just let Carrie know, and then she will tell me, and then I can get a referral to Missoula. And then what I would just need would be a good contact information for that youth, whether it's a placement or a group home, or if they have their own phone, that'd be awesome. And then I can give the person in, Missoula a heads up that, hey, you've got Jane Doe coming. This is kind of what was going on, and just reach out as soon as you can. And then it's actually that easy.
Yeah, perfect. Is it the same thing when they go out of state?
So when they go out of state, what happens is the county that they were removed from is the serving county. So, for instance, here in Yellowstone, I have a couple clients who are in Utah right now. Um, I work with them via Zoom, and they're still my clients until, say, something changes with CPS and either they're closed or they go to another county. Then it's me who works with them.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, because I think that's kind of something that it's a federal program, and so every state, every jurisdiction, yeah, it's a federal program, not just particular to Montana.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. So how can advocates encourage hope and motivation in youth who they may feel is discouraged about their future? Again, for me, that comes back to being honest, letting them know, like, here are your choices that are ahead of you. How can I help you? What do you need from me? Um, because again, they're having a whole lot of people in their life tell them this is what you need to do, this is how you should do it. It really, and I know I've said it before, it goes so far to just ask them, what do you want? What do you want to do? I know maybe sometimes maybe not CASA and not Chafee. Some people look at maybe a university system as a good housing option, but some kids don't want to do that. They just want to maybe take a year off, or they don't even want to do that. So just being honest with them, letting them tell you, I don't want to go to school. I want to just get out of CPS and I want to do my own thing for a little bit. Fantastic. There's at least a housing voucher that we can get you connected with so you can have a place to live. Great. Then I've always seen that build trust with youth to, again, have a little bit more control in a situation where they have little to no control.
Yeah, I love that.
So I think the last question, if there's one thing that I would want every advocate to remember when working with older youth, what would it be? Be honest with them. Even if it might not be a situation that you would want your personal children to know. Like if we have a youth that's going to be 18 and they're refusing everything, I will tell them like, look, you're not leaving us with a lot of options, and homelessness is extremely scary. Um, I will tell them I see youth who are your age sleeping outside of Tumbleweed. I see youth who are your age sleeping outside of Tumbleweed in the winter, curled up into a little ball with 5 sleeping bags on top of them so they can make it through the night. It doesn't feel good to say to an 18-year-old you might be homeless, but that might be what they need to hear in order to light some little fire underneath them to not want that. So honesty goes a long way. Being genuine with them goes a long way. Um, yeah, they can, like I said before, they can sniff out a phony real quick. And if you're not honest, if you're not genuine, they will shut down. And then it just turns into another thing they got to do.
Yeah.
So I have another question in the chat. Do you
Yeah.
have a flyer? And maybe this is for Carrie too. Do you or do we have a flyer or list of services that we could review with the child we're working with to say, hey, Chafee can do blah 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 for you,
We do. So
or
on the
Tumbleweed?
So on the
Pardon?
advocate, so on the advocate resource folder on SharePoint, we have all of our resources, and underneath those resources are resources for older youth, including Chafee and Tumbleweed services. So yes, on SharePoint in the advocate resource folder.
So I can find that and send that out with our my follow-up email. Okay.
Yeah, and there's a
And
ton of other resources in there, well as how to talk with youth, how to help them plan for aging out. I mean, yeah, so there's a ton of resources in that folder.
Okay.
and anybody who's interested, if you wanted a tour of Tumbleweed, just let Carrie know and she can get it organized with me, or she can give you my email. I am more than happy to do a tour to let you really see what it is that Tumbleweed does.
Yeah. So Tony, so just briefly on that too, before we let you go, can you just give kind of a general sense? I don't think a lot of folks understand how many homeless youth we have in the community. So can you talk a little bit just about the numbers that you're seeing at Tumbleweed with the homeless youth that you do have young people sleeping on the streets and homeless and
Yeah. So right now, our drop-in is serving 60 youth a day. That is either somebody coming in to do laundry, that is maybe somebody coming in to meet with the housing coordinators, somebody who's coming in just to get lunch and head out. So that's what 60 a day times 5, that's like what, almost 300 a youth a week. A lot of them are repeat youth, but it's still, and it's great that they know that this can be their safe space and that they can come here to get warm and they can come here to do job searching, that they can connect with people. But it's just, too much. And it would be great if one day we weren't needed, but here we
yeah.
are. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things too is, and what we're seeing, and this may come up too, is that we are having younger and younger parents having babies, and then we're getting involved. And so we actually have a few cases where the parents are engaging um, in Chafee services and reaching out and utilizing your services. And so I think that's, something to keep in mind for advocates too, that it might not be a youth, but we're having really young parents, 18, 19, 20-year-old parents
Mhm.
that have come from the system. And so they also may be working with you.
Yeah. So,
So,
I mean,
go ahead.
yeah. So, I mean, if they're 18, 19 young parents and they're
Yep.
Chafee eligible,
Yep.
send them our way and we can help out as much as we can.
So at one time, Tumbleweed had an overnight shelter. Are there any plans to reopen that?
So right now it's just a matter of funding and trying to get all the funding together in order to reopen it. Um, I don't like there's no time frame, but I know that is something that our executive director is working with to try to get all that funding together and for to do the renovations to make sure that we have enough staff so we can so we can open up our drop-in at night again.
Okay.
So Tony, you obviously you work with these youth, you see some really sad things, hear some really sad things. Like what keeps you, you've been doing this for a long time.
Mhm.
What keeps you going? What gives you hope? Because like I said, you work with a lot of tough situations and see
Yeah.
a lot of stories.
So what actually I love about this program is the youth who really want to make it work and who want to utilize my services to their fullest. Even if to them the fullest is helping them get a bus pass, helping them fill out their FYI voucher so they can get a job, so they can be to work on time. Um, Sometimes I'll get them a bike, and that's, what they need in order to help save up money. So there really have been a lot of youth who want to engage, who want to go to college, who are willing to fill out that voucher for the scholarships to fund their education. Um, that is one thing that I really enjoy seeing. It's the youth who don't know, who are maybe 16, 17, who don't know what they want to do, who don't know what direction they want to do. Um, Being able to guide them even in the smallest little step in their life has been so great to see. And just to see that little bit of spark of like, hey, I could do this. I mean, hey, I could get a job at KFC and have my own place. Awesome. That's fantastic. So yeah, it's those kind of things that I love seeing and keeps me around.
Yeah, it's a little success
Who
story.
Mm.
funds Chafee?
So Chafee is federally funded. So every state actually has something Chafee like they might not call it the Chafee program, but every state should have something like us.
Great.
Yeah, perfect. So just one last question, Tony. So when it comes to like post-secondary, who else might you work with? Maybe it's Trio, other different organizations, like helping these kids fill out FAFSAs, helping these kids, do some of that stuff that, is tough. Like me just even trying to help my own children with FAFSAs. What does that look like? Do you guys help them? Do you guys partner with, an organization like Trio?
So we partner with Trio because they are so great. I've had 5 clients who have gone on to a university. Trio will literally sit right next to them and tell them, hit this button, hit that button. This is why you qualify for that. Um, and then on top of that, Trio can also tell them, okay, well, once you get to school, this is what you qualify for as well. So I wholeheartedly would recommend Trio. Sitting with them, having them help youth, they are really, really great to work with. And the great thing too is that they have always been willing to meet with me wherever I meet the youth. So if I have a youth who, say, is wanting to fill out paperwork and they have a job and, hey, can we meet at Starbucks real quick? Trio will be right there. And
Yeah.
then there's also Trio in the schools as well. And again, Trio has come to Tumbleweed and done a presentation for us. And I've been really lucky to work with a lot of Trio. And I can say that a lot of the Trio people I work with, fantastic. Really, really great.
Yeah, great. Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know if anybody else has any other questions, if they want to ask Tony while we've got him.
I had one of my questions in the chat, but it just about there being any plans considered for Tumbleweed's overnight shelter.
He addressed that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
We talked about that, Mary Rose. Yeah.
So hopefully in the future, as of right now, it's just a matter of funding, but that's something that our executive director wants to happen as well. So I know a lot of her time is spent trying to get all that together.
Thanks for reiterating,
Yeah, of
Tony.
course, you're good.
I love that. And I think just so advocates know too, so every, I don't know, probably quarterly or a little bit more often, I do send over a list to Tony as far as which or which adolescents we're serving that are 14 and older, or sometimes even I include 13-year-olds just so he can kind of have a heads up, and it does list then who the advocate is. That way we're making sure that those referrals are getting over at that 14-year mark. So just so advocates are aware of that. But yeah, and I know that in the past, Tony and Tumbleweed have been great too. Like I said, if you want to go meet with your youth in their lobby, especially like if they're in an apartment there and you don't feel comfortable with that they've, been able to work with us to provide that space too for you
Yeah.
to meet your youth there.
Yep.
So
Yeah, just give whomever's working with that youth a heads up, and we will let you know what the schedules look like. That way everybody can kind of coordinate.
yeah, perfect. Any other questions that anybody has about the programs or about how to support older youth? I liked what you said, Tony. I think it's hard not to go into mother role or to tell them or even to try to save them from themselves, right? And
Right.
so stepping back and those natural consequences, that's
Mhm.
hard, right? Because you can
It,
kind of
yeah,
not get into that mothering role.
it is. And I can tell you I've had more than one youth in our sales program whom I've just wanted to say, just do what I tell you to do. It's gonna be okay, I promise. But again, stepping back, letting them make their own mistakes, it's the biggest lesson that they can learn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so hard, so hard.
Hmm. It really is.
Okay, again, any more questions? I'm counting to 10, Carrie.
I know.
And of course, if you do have questions after that, send that to Carrie and then she'll get it to me and I can get an answer to you guys.
Yeah,
All right, we're
perfect.
getting lots of thank yous. So thank you, Tony. We appreciate your time.
Of course.
I know that he has a 1 o'clock Zoom. He kind of really booked himself today.
I know, that's kind of my fault, but
So I am going to stop the recording right now.
okay, perfect. Well, it was nice to meet everybody. And again, any questions, just let Carrie know.